Here's a quick look at the Peter Piper's palette picker. So you're going to be creating three compositions, and the way that we're going to do it is we're going to highlight one of these areas over on the right hand side, which indicate which section of that white square to the side is going to be colored, and then we're going to pick a color over here. So one of the compositions we're going to do is a analogous or monochromatic. So again, from reviewing what you guys were looking at, analogous are similar colors. So as we pick this next section, we're just going to pick another color that is similar in hue. And then again, we're just going to kind of keep choosing. We can just click right inside the white squares, which highlights it over on the right hand side, or you can choose, from the right hand side. So either way, but you can see all of these are colors that are grouped together, and you're just going to need to fill in all of the sections of the square on the right hand side, and that'll complete a single composition. So obviously choose different colors than what I'm showing here, but the idea, if it's analogous or monochromatic, it's all within like a similar range. So most of these are kind of a blue and a pink, or kind of a magenta. But if you're playing around with, well, how do those look? Red is also, because magenta is red and blue, so maybe a mix of those depending on how tight you want to keep that analogous color. Once you've completed it, we're going to be needing to kind of document that. So the easiest way is just to go ahead and we're going to be creating a screenshot. Quick reminder, screenshot is Shift Command and the number 4, and then just draw a box around it. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the fields here, and we're going to look at doing a different composition. So the next one that we need to do is either it's an illusion or it's an overlap. So I'm going to create this first, this first middle section as a solid color, right? It just is blue. And then next to it, I'm going to place two bands that are red. So clicking on this next part, these little small pieces, red and red. Now these colors are just sitting adjacent to each other, right? But when they're next to each other, it creates an illusion that the blue is above the red, right? Can you see that? So as you're building your next composition for either an illusion or an overlap, the illusion of overlap or transparency, it's just a matter of how we're placing these different squares. Now use much different colors. You're going to want to fill in the whole document as well. Now as I just placed this yellow, now it looks like the yellow is below the red and that the blue is above the red, right? Now it looks like the yellow is on top of the red and the blue is on top of the red. If I choose instead a different color, like we've got the red on top, but if I chose, instead of it being red in those top areas and made it more of an orange, now it looks as though I can see through the yellow to the red, and that's the transparency, right? So you're creating this illusion of how those colors would mix together, or if they're solid colors, then it's going to be a matter of how they play with each other, whether one's above or one's below. So in this case, we both have an overlap and we have a illusion of transparency. And again, you need to fill in all the squares. So think about, well, what's that last little section going to be? Is it going to be, a bigger section? So in this case, if I made that part blue, now it fills that whole space. It almost looks as though the red is being woven through the blue. Now it's solid sitting on top of it, right? So there's lots of ways that you can kind of play around with adjusting, which values are showing up where and how they interact with each other. So now we still have kind of a yellow transparency. Now we've got a solid yellow, right? So there's lots of ways that you can play around with that. The main thing is, your finished composition should have either an illusion of overlap or an illusion of that transparency, or it could be a combination of both. Okay. Once you've decided on what that final composition is going to be, so I'm going to make a final little adjustment here, and then again, once you do that, make sure you take a screenshot to document it. And again, in order to do that screenshot, it's going to be Shift, Command, and 4. And then all the screenshots, they show up on the desktop, and then you're just going to post those. So I'm going to finish this up, add a couple little changes so that it looks like the red is being woven through the blue instead of doing the transparency. So now it looks like that red kind of comes under and then over and then under, kind of doing a basket weaving effect, right? So again, screenshot and then save those. And then the final composition you guys are going to be working on is going to be a one of Itten's contrasts. So you may want to go back through and decide, which of those 8 types of Itten's contrasts you want to do, and clear the fields and do another composition that uses one of those contrasts. Make sure to label them when you put them in the gallery. So put in, is that going to be, is this a contrast of extension, or is it a contrast of warm and cool, or is this my analogous, is this my transparency, right? So the final composition ends up with a little bit of transparency and then also kind of this basket weaving effect, and then create that screenshot and post it to your website.